Hey everyone, it's Alex from XM Studios, and we're here today. We're joined by the panel, and we are going to run through the new Ghost Rider. So this is really exciting. What we do first is we're going to run through the team and tell you who we got here and let you know a little bit about them. So I'm Alex, and I work for XM. I'm the community manager, and we're going to move across straight to Martin on my side.
Hi everyone, I'm Martin, XM's art director.
Okay. And then over to Ben and Stanley.
I'm here from XM Studios.
I'm Stanley, XM Studios.
And then we got our guests today. So we're going to go down first of all below, and we're going to go to Chris.
Hey everybody, I'm Chris from Bmutha Reviews. Big XM fan, so I'm happy to be here. Excited to see this new Ghost Rider.
Cool. And then straight across to Stephen that way. There you go.
What's going on, guys? You guys know me as Gem Mint from Gem Mint Collectibles. I review statues many times, XM Studios pieces, as well as comic books. And I'm glad that I was invited back. It means I didn't totally ruin the war tank reveal. So thanks for having me.
All right. So what we're going to do is this is a reveal as well. So we're actually going to show Gem, and we're going to show Chris with the video straight away, and we're going to get their response from that. So if we cut straight to the video and go from there. All right, so what we'll do is we're going to ask the panel straight away what they think when it's fresh on their minds. So we're going to cut to Chris. So Chris, what do you think of that?
Well, it looks mighty impressive. Yeah, on horseback, this is going to be a pretty big, imposing statue, I imagine. Swap out torsos. You got a couple different Ghost Rider looks going there. So, this looks like a pretty impressive piece.
All right. And then we'll ask Stephen. So what do you think about this, Stephen?
Yeah, well, right away, I think it's a great idea because just like with the War Tank, right? The War Tank's a companion to one of XM's most successful pieces, the Hulkbuster. And this is like in the same vein, right? Because I think when most people think what are like some of the best XM pieces, the original Ghost Rider on the bike's got to be one of them. So I think it's very smart to have a companion to that. And I really think this piece like transcends comic collectors because the Wraith-looking version of this piece looks like it would be collectors of all sorts, not just people that collect Marvel comic stuff. So I think it looks really cool. I like how menacing and fierce it looks. It's got the chain, the cloak's moving, the horse is on fire. Looks great.
Well, you have, as you say there, you have those so-called collectors who do collect a lot of the kind of skull collectibles and things like that as well. So that would appeal to them as well, like the demon figurines and things.
Yeah, like
so,
a horror-based kind of piece almost.
And also you have with this, there are so many renditions of the Ghost Rider in different forms that, it's good to kind of go into something different with that. What we'll do then is, so we released the original Ghost Rider back in 2016. It was very well received and considered a grail amongst most collectors. It won the Best Large-Scale Statue of the Year at the Statue Awards, and it won several others as well at the time. Now, with the Ghost Rider on Horseback Edition, we're going to go through and we're going to speak to Ben and Stanley about what some of the elements of the statue. So, with the piece, Ben, with the piece, the original was such a kick-ass piece. How did you go about trying to top that with this piece?
Initially, when we designed the Ghost Rider of the bike, we already have ideas of the second piece, which is the Ghost Rider and the horse. But it took us quite a while to complete the second pieces, and then just to show it to everyone in end of 2021, obviously 2022. It took quite a while for us to really, we concept everything to make sure that it does like a match companion to the one on the bike. Yeah, and we were not looking at releasing a Ghost Rider so fast, which is why it took us quite a few years for these pieces.
Well, that's always going to be something very difficult when you have something as highly regarded as the original was. You kind of then you're going to need to kind of make something to kind of better that rather than just making one for the sake of it. So to put all that planning in there is going to take a lot of time as well. With this as well, so how did the Ghost Rider concept come about, and where did the inspiration come from? And we'll push it over to Stanley.
Yeah, so like what Ben mentioned, the previous Ghost, our very first Ghost Rider was a showstopper. So for this particular piece itself, all along the team wanted to create a version that is non-mechanical, which is simply the organic version of Ghost Rider. Since like what you mentioned, Ghost Rider comes in many forms. So definitely one of the more iconic moments, I guess, is going to be on the horseback. So this is actually in a way paying tribute and homage to the very first Ghost Rider, which is Cutter Slip, known as Phantom Rider. So this is how we try to link it back to the original concept of Ghost Rider as well. And also because of the first design is super dynamic, right? We wanted to create something as dynamic. That's why the horse, if you look at the entire design, the movement is there, the flames plays a major part. It's like it's dancing. So the entire storytelling it's I would say heavily focused. And of course, on top of this, we wanted to create something a little bit special. That's why we added a switch up body. So if you notice the Ghost Rider in cloak, it's actually from a very well-known comic series. And this particular character's name is called Caleb. So that's how we are able to also bring in a additional Ghost Rider into the entire story.
Yeah. So that was from the Trial of Tears, which actually was the prelude to the Road to Damnation, and it was with the Garth Ennis, who is famous from doing a lot of other stuff like The Boys, and I think he did Preacher as well, and also it's Punisher, and also with Clayton Crane, who's a huge artist at the moment. He did the artwork for that. So yeah, it's a lot of it's really popular run as well.
Yeah. With seeing now Ghost Rider on a horse and on the bike, it makes me think: is there hopes for a Robbie Reyes in the car Ghost Rider in the future? That would be a humongous piece.
That'd be awesome, right?
It sounds like some people are already thinking about it.
I mean, even when we are designing this, right? I mean, I keep telling in my heart, hopefully no one release the Ghost Rider on horse before we show people ours. It's been years, I've been keeping this, telling the team, we want to do a Ghost Rider on the horse, we want to do a Ghost Rider on the horse, but when I'm going to do it, so I would say that we are lucky that now none of the companies out there actually done it before us.
Yeah. Well, I don't think everybody is as ambitious as XM to make full horses and motorcycles and things of that nature. So
yeah, I was just gonna say something similar. Yeah, I mean, nobody's attempted a Ghost Rider like what you did before, even on the bike. So, you guys are kind of leading the way here.
Yeah, there's been quite a few Ghost Riders on motorbike now in a lot of smaller scale, and yeah. So like with that in mind, XM kind of pushed the boundaries with doing that Ghost Rider at that point, and then running up, people only ever still did. Is it the sort of Johnny Blaze version? That was always the one that sort of always gets released. There's never any other versions, rarely that come out.
I just want to throw this out: Danny Ketch, '90s motorcycle. It still can be done, guys.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah. That's my Ghost Rider. Like I'm a '90s comics guy, growing up. So the Dan Ketch Ghost Rider, like, make it happen.
Stanley, do you want to go through just the actual story that this came from and give it a little bit more background for anyone who's not familiar with it?
Well, yeah. So to start off, this concept is who created. We designed together with Ricardo Federici. He's one of our go-to guy. When we draw concepts, and he's really good in creating very dynamic pieces as well as anatomy. So if you realize that if you look at this particular design, like I mentioned just now, is from the comic Trails of the Tears, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Trinity.
So it's a prelude to a very big Ghost Rider story. So that's when we come in, and it ties in well because the character itself, the background story of the character is pretty interesting. If you read the comic, Caleb himself, He is a free. I'm not too sure if I'm allowed to say he's a free slave, you know. And that's when the story progresses and how certain groups of bandits came along, did nasty things to his family, and that's when he's angry. You know, that's how he became the Ghost Rider. If you guys read, it's I think a 6-part mini series.
Yeah.
You guys should read it. Yep, it's really interesting. So with that, we kind of translated it into how we wanted the piece to be. You know, how wild. And how this piece is filled with anger and vengeance, you know, the entire dynamic movement, and as well as paying tribute, like I mentioned, homage to the original Ghost Rider. So how we are able to kind of introduce them seamlessly via switch out, because it so happens that the entire world or the entire setting is based on the Western style type of move. So that's how we kind of came about this entire concept.
And,
just-
and we need to thank Marvel for their
Yes.
creative input. So we went through a few rounds and discussed about the overall concept and design, and their inputs and feedback given to improve this piece.
Yep.
And they're very support of us. To do pieces like that. That trying to break the boundary that we have. Yeah. So good support from the Marvel team.
So just to go back on that, the cloak version is Caleb, and then the Wild West upper torso is the Carter Slade version. Is that what you were saying? Or it's a homage to the original art?
It's more paying homage back to the original Ghost Rider, which is Carter Slade. Yeah, but of course there are lots of different versions of Ghost Rider out there, so it's just
Right.
that's right.
There's several times where they have like a vision of all the Ghost Riders, and there's always like a Western version in there, and
That's right.
And we saw something similar in the first Ghost Rider movie with Nicolas Cage. Now, I don't know that it's the same character, but it's the same idea that the spirit of vengeance can really inhabit anybody. And it typically something traumatic happens to them to trigger that. And yeah, we're seeing this person now from the Wild Wild West riding a horseback becoming the spirit of vengeance, the Ghost Rider.
I think it's the caretaker in the movie, but
Right.
Yeah, they've got several different names for them, but yeah. And what's the sort of like? Obviously, it's quite visually, it's quite obvious. But for you, what was the main differences between the first Ghost Rider and this? Sorry, to Stanley.
Definitely how we introduce, I would say, the difference between like I mentioned, a more modern version to the original, as well as something more mechanical and organic. That's definitely the differences. As well as how, if you look at it, how our sculpt, if you notice, is different. How it is definitely more refined as we move along as a company. How Martin definitely. So that's how we see progress. So if you look at the Ghost Rider, there's definitely some differences in terms of the overall look, and the feel as well. And as well as the paint apps. If you look at it, the latest version, which is the one on Horseback, is actually an improved method of painting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even more, I would say, more flame up. It's definitely hotter, so to speak, when you look at as compared to the very first Ghost Rider. So the paint application is different as well.
Yeah, it makes sense that 5 years or so later you would do that much better. But man, that original Ghost Rider aged so well. I've always been a huge fan of how you guys do fire, from the Dark Phoenix to these two pieces. So even though it's much newer, and I'm sure close up you're going to see more refined details, man, they look great together. They don't look like they have a huge age gap.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing as well. Is you need to do that as well. That it doesn't look, totally different. It needs to still fit together like that. And what the thing I'm looking at the moment is from this picture. I mean, I've seen that first version of Ghost Rider several times on my travels, and it's a big piece. From looking at them two together and the knowledge of knowing how big that Ghost Rider is, that the new version is huge. It's really big. Wow.
that first Ghost Rider, you can't just pick it up and move it. I don't even think with two people, just because the way that it's engineered, you really got to disassemble it to move it. So this thing, like, it almost makes that Ghost Rider look small compared to it. But man, this thing is massive.
I think a lot of people may be like if they sort of see it, they might be a bit like, oh yeah, I can display that, you know. Yeah, there we go. We got the measurements there. So,
but it doesn't look unnecessarily big. It has like a traditional base, like an oval shaped. It's just wide and tall, right?
Well, also, if you look at it, there's not a lot of negative space. It's
right,
all,
no protruding.
You know, there's things going on. So yeah,
you want to bring in a quarter scale horse? It's going to be a big statue.
Yeah,
it's 75 centimeters tall, 60 deep, and I believe that's 75 wide. So yeah. I'm not.
And you still have another half body pass.
Yeah, and you get another half body pass.
I saw that. So I noticed that. So this has 2 switch out torsos, and then you guys are including a separate base, which I think is awesome, because otherwise you have to just throw it behind the statue or leave it in the box. So this is awesome, so that you can display both torsos at once.
Yeah, all statues need to come with that, really.
Even for portraits.
I think that's something really, really outdated. I mean, we did do that a long time ago with our Black Widow. A long time ago, where she got the gun barrel thing to balance on.
Cool.
So we actually do have the prototype piece in the office with Ben and Stanley. So do we want to go sort of show the people that?
Is it
His face looks menacing. That expression is great.
Yeah, that's good, because I mean, if in the comic, he's got pretty good reason to be ticked off.
Yeah.
So if anybody has read it, they know what I'm talking about. So that fits in well with the storyline that's coming from.
Wow,
the sub base is nice as well, with like the wood trim.
Yeah,
gives you that Western vibe.
Yeah.
I like the way the actual bombing knocker is actually on a chain as well, rather than being kind of on a fixed, like a PVC kind of chain.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Oh wow,
very cool.
That's very cool.
Maybe we should put it up.
Sure, if you want to.
You can go and see that.
So, Chris, you want to say what you think about the piece so far?
Just massive is what's coming to my mind. I can't get that out of my thought process here, because the original Ghost Rider is a huge statue, big heavy piece. I mean, this thing's gonna look awesome next to that.
Are they switching out the bust?
Yeah, it looks like they're going to switch that torso.
I was told because this is a prototype, so this isn't the final product. I was told Stanley's going to get very angry if I ask him to move him over. That's why I was told. So I was actually going to ask, but
well, if something goes wrong, you can always cut it.
Well, yeah, and also it's not my fault because I'm not there this time. At conventions, I always get the blame anyway, but it is normally me. So, yeah.
Looks like a pretty quick switch out, though, right? Just take the torso off, and then
yeah. And is this something, Jem, that you would expect from XM for like a second Ghost Rider piece?
Of course. I mean, first of all, XM is always going to do something that's never been done. You guys are innovative, and outdoing what you did with the first one by including more torsos and portraits and separate bases for that switch out. Whereas the Ghost Rider, I don't think it had any switch outs. So it's not only a great companion to that, it's bigger, it has more options. So yeah, I mean, always going bigger and better. I appreciate it.
I mean, that's always something that's going to be difficult, is when you release a next piece and you're trying to kind of better the first or make something that is different to the first. It can be quite easy for companies just to kind of throw in extra heads just for the sake of it, or extra switch outs for the sake of it. So, to make it so that it's all relevant and, it does improve on the piece, and it's not just, oh, you get this, and this, which you're probably never going to display anyway. These are things that you're going to have on display every time, especially with it being a separate bust.
XM could have easily done a switch out right hand that had the mace and one that didn't have it, or just a
One had a
different
gun,
portrait.
maybe. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, like a revolver or something. Yeah, but no, I like it. I like the details on it. I love that sub base, man. I'm a sucker for that. And then the horse, you can kind of see the muscle tendons. It's like like has no skin almost, right?
And what's your preference out of the two? Like, have the two shown, Chris?
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna ask me.
We'll come back to you, Jim.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'd go with the cloaked version. You know, that's
Yeah?
the one from the story that I'm familiar with. So that's how I'd go with it. Yeah.
I was actually thinking to myself that, like, you know, when I sort of seen them before, and I saw it a lot in writing as well, obviously from emails and things, and I always thought the cloak version, and then seeing this set up now, I really like the cowboy version. I like that the way he's posed with the bobby knocker. I really like that, and the gun on his hip exposed. I like that. What about yourself, Stephen? Stephen, you can talk now.
I think you froze for a second.
Yeah, you cut out for a
sorry.
sec.
I'm definitely feeling the Wraith pose as well, but I can see a lot of collectors preferring the cowboy version. Everybody has their own preferences, which is what's great about this piece. It completely switches the character and the look to it.
I think as well, if you were to have the original piece, that the cowboy version would be so different that you could actually still display them together without it being kind of the same character as such. Obviously, as you two both are comic book readers and collectors as well, are there any other Ghost Rider characters, Ghost Rider versions or characters from the series that you would think are missing from sort of statue collecting world?
Well, it's got to be the '90s Dan Ketch version.
For
I'd
sure.
love to see that. Like he's got kind of the bike that I think of for Ghost Rider. As I said, I'm a '90s comics guy. It's when I was growing up, so I still remember going to the comic book store and seeing the new Ghost Rider covers whenever they came out, and they always blew me away. And issue number 1, get the bike front and center. He's just kind of standing on top of it. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
In a
That's
statue
what I
for
want to
sure.
see. A recreation of Ghost Rider 1 from the 90s. I think he's just got one foot on the ground and he's kind of on the bike. The bike's got that big like fender on the front, like 90s futuristic, if you will. But yeah, I think we kind of spoiled that a little bit. Danny Ketch Ghost Rider for sure, and then I mentioned Robbie Reyes, which is the current Ghost Rider, who has is it a Camaro? I'm pretty sure it's a Camaro.
I'm not sure what kind of car, some kind of muscle car thing. It looks really cool. I mean, Ghost Rider is always a cool looking character. You know,
For sure.
I mean, you could pick a lot of different, whichever version you want, and it's going to turn out to be a pretty cool piece.
Hopefully they can come out a new movie for Ghost Rider.
Yeah, or something, whether it's a Disney Plus show or a movie, because I'm pretty sure that Disney has the rights back to the character or has the rights, so hopefully we'll see something.
Well, Ghost Rider was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., wasn't he?
Yeah.
The Robbie Reyes version, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this piece is also quite mind-blowing to me because it's not just that it's a companion, but the ability to display two characters into one. I think it's something that is quite awesome, and I hope it'll make all the collectors happy.
Yeah, I'm sure they will be. I mean, it looks amazing, absolutely amazing. What we're going to do now is we're going to move into the 3D and the sculpting phase. So we're actually going to hear more from you, Martin, here. So what was the sculpting of 3D process like to bring the characters to life? And what were the main challenges along the way?
Right, so I guess this, as usual for a character with a horse or any type of vehicles, that's two characters into one. So yeah, definitely it's a bit more work, but also at the same time it's a quite fun one because we get to work on Ricardo's design, which we really like in the in office here with the team. So we want to make sure that it's on par with our first Ghost Rider. So in terms of the details, the composition, we want to make sure that it can be matched with the first one, and it will look good on its own. And this one will have, like I mentioned, you will have two characters, the rider and the horse. And we have to make sure the details that we put is equal on both. And the switch out torso is also something that requires a lot of planning because
Yeah.
we have to make sure that visually it looks good into to torsos. But technically also it can be achieved. That means we need to know where to cut, where we do the cuttings, where we hide those areas. So when you switch out the torsos, nobody will see any nasty seam lines. And I guess the cloak also is something that requires a lot of attention because it's big, it's flowing, so we want to make sure that it looks natural and it can hold its own weight. So there's a lot of consideration that comes into this piece actually.
Rather than switch out the busts, I mean
Yeah,
the composition has to be correct on both of them, which it must be very
yeah,
difficult. It must be a challenge.
yes, exactly. And
With sorry,
sorry, go ahead.
no, go. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was about to add that lastly it was the fire because like Jem was mentioning, we did sculpted fire for many pieces, starting I guess from the first Ghost Rider to the Dark Phoenix to Magic and to this one. We want to maintain the same quality of sculpted fire as well as try to make it look natural. And then I think the painter also did a great job in this because it looks very vibrant and it just pops from far away.
Mhm.
And overall, I'm quite happy with how it turned out. Actually, I'm quite excited to see this.
When obviously there's a part like a statue from previous. So like within this panel, we obviously have the original Ghost Rider, and from the other panel we had the Hulkbuster. Do you think that's then harder to then go on to make something as a follow-up piece?
Yeah, I guess it's
You have to
definitely
live up to it.
that definitely there's a what do you call that? There's an
Expectation.
expectation. Yeah, but instead of making something that we are pressured to always make something that is much better or wow looking. We just want to make sure that it complements as well. That means for collectors who have the first piece, the second piece will be the best complement. And yeah, of course, in terms of technology, right, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of new features in the sculpting tools. We are using ZBrush, so there's a lot of small tricks or even the resolution. We can pump more details into it. The pieces can be bigger, more detailed. So I hope this can be seen, but at the same time, also in terms of composition, we still need to work with the first one.
Because obviously you can put in as much detail as you want, but it still needs to be something that the factory can replicate on the other side
Exactly.
of that.
Yes.
But with that as well, I mean, is it, from your point of view, is it easier to incorporate all that detail in the larger piece, or does it make it a greater challenge?
Yeah, I think it's both because yes, we are happy as an artist to get to create bigger pieces.
Massive.
But yeah, at the same time, I think it's we need to be sure that all elements have the same quality of finish. And I just want to I will give some credits to the artist as well, Tiago. Tiago Rios is our sculptor, as well as our in-house team, Paul and Joshua, who did finish to make sure that all these the great sculpts are ready for print and production.
You've worked with Tiago on several projects. I mean, what was he like working together?
Yeah, I think he's great because we've done a few projects with him, actually quite a lot, from the Rebirth, Joker, Deathstroke, and the Predator on Throne is by him. And then of course, Samurai Penguins and a few more upcoming pieces from him.
Rhino.
So yeah, you know him. So he did a good job on those pieces, and he got a good eye on details. And I mean, usually how it goes is he will send us few sketches in 3D in sculpts, and then we'll just take a look, maybe do a bit of sculpt over, and then throw it back to him. In general, I mean, he's quite fast in catching what we want. There's not a lot of too crazy back and forth with him, so it's been great to work with this with Tiago.
That's awesome. Going over to Jem, what sort of sculpting detail do you think collectors would be looking for in a piece like this?
That's a good question. I think we're accustomed to like I think the ZBrush tips and tricks for like the textures and things like that, stuff that you can't really accomplish with traditional sculpting. So I think we're just like Martin said, our expectations are already set, and I think that you guys met the expectations there. There's nothing that I could see that is lacking, you know. So everything is there as far as the detail into the sculpt, the movement, and then of course the paint application. So I think you guys hit what collectors are looking for, and especially collectors who have the original. I think they're going to be happy to pair and companion these pieces.
Yeah. And is there anything you'd like to add there, Chris, as well?
Well, I think we're kind of in an era of collecting where there's a few dozen new statues every month, it seems. So I think collectors are looking for something unique. They're looking for something with presence, and something that's going to stand out in their collection. And I think those three things, you nailed it with this Ghost Rider for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, what we do now is we're going to move across to something which is obviously going to be quite important in this piece, which is going to be the engineering and the production phase. So the previous Ghost Rider was very revolutionary with the engineering side of things. Have you pushed the boundaries of engineering again with this piece, Stanley, Ben?
I think so far, we have been doing quite a lot of big pieces. And the last piece with the horse is actually our Batman Shogun.
Yeah.
So basically, we learned a lot from that piece when we do engineer, and we apply on this organic horse that we have. So how do we be able to pose the Ghost Rider, have it sitting on top, comfortably, and which look nice and also easy for collectors to example later. So Sing, of course, will always look at the aspect where how can we try not to split too many parts of the horse so that we can remain, we don't want to have the casting line or joining line. So what we can see in the image is that this horse is actually like the whole piece, right? You don't see much of the legs splitting up or the head splitting off. It's basically just a saddle, and that's it.
How challenging was it to achieve the paint application of the flames on the horse, Stanley? I mean, I know in the original one, when it came out, there were some questions about why wasn't this clear resin? Why was this? But then when it actually was delivered, people were saying it was a good idea to be painted. So how challenging was it to get the paint the way you wanted it?
Well, to start off, you mentioned about clear resin. As we all know, XM tries to we tend to try to avoid using any form of clear resin, right?
Yeah.
So something more solid definitely requires more paint application, more techniques being used, to understand how colors merge and flow. So we do get a lot of, I would say, experience from Dark Phoenix. So Dark Phoenix is one of those pieces that if you look at it as a whole, it really do look like it's flaming, it's burning. So using that same technique that we kind of apply on Dark Phoenix, we kind of use it here again, and because of the way the experience we have, we're able to introduce slightly more, I would say, color variations. I mean, in terms of the orange, the yellows, the reds, even some tints of black onto it to make it even more vibrant, more hotter. It looks even hotter. So this piece that you are looking at just now is really our very first prototype. So the production piece is going to look even better.
Yeah.
So Sing himself has actually, I would say, advised the painting team over in our factory on ways to make it look even better, right? So to also mention something about the production just now, like what Martin mentioned, the thought behind, I would say, creating a piece with switch out, upper torso switch out, comes really from the beginning at the 2D stage, where we decide generally how is it going to be split, and when we progress to the 3D sculpting stage, Martin will actually kind of reinforces it in terms of how we can do the potential switch out together with the sculptor. And when we move on to production stage, actually, there is another round of engineering where we have to take into considerations of string gauge, of how things may potentially warp and stuff like that. So the entire process actually is really tedious, especially when you work with two entirely different type of finishing. I would say, the Cater Slate inspired version, which is clean, the switch out is always simple. But when it comes to Caleb's version, you know, with all the cloak, sometimes it's a little bit more technical because of the way the fabric folds, you know. So there are lots of hidden areas that you cannot see underneath. So that's when you know we have to really take into account, and lots of prototypes will be made. Yeah.
What's the material the cloak element is made from?
Yeah, we have yet to decide actually, but the current version that we have here is actually poly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there are there any questions that you'd like to add, Chris?
About the engineering side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things, you know, with the first Ghost Rider that I always wondered about was the chains. How are you going to do that? So, I mean, you must have probably pulled from that knowledge bank to implement these chains. Are they still like a polystone, like a more flexible material as well?
So for this particular piece, there are two different chains, right? You know, one is the actual chain material, while the other is this soft, I would say PVC material where you get to heat it up. But this is you know, from the very first Ghost Rider, the link were pretty big, right? So this particular version, we actually kind of created it slightly smaller, so it looks even more detailed, even more natural as compared to the very first. So yeah.
Very cool.
And is there anything you'd like to add, Stephen?
No, I mean it just sounds like, you know, there's a lot of lessons learned from the first Ghost Rider, from the Batman on horse. So you guys kind of have already overcome a lot of those pitfalls, and it shows in this piece because even though it's such a huge epic piece, it doesn't seem like it's that many pieces. You got the base, the horse, the torso, and like the chain, and that's pretty much it. So I think it's engineering wise, it seems like it's very efficient. What about A and B versions? Are you guys doing something along those lines, or?
I think we just go with one version, right? Just one that you can have both the body switch out. Of course, price wise, we are trying to get quote from different factories, right? To make sure that we can produce this in a cheaper cost. I think pricing factory production cost nowadays is like, oh man, it's crazy.
Mhm.
So as much as we want to put out good pieces at low cost, it's not that easy. Yeah.
So this piece is actually going to be available to be sold and shipped from Southeast Asia, the Middle East, India, and Europe. For Europe collectors, we'll need to pre-order directly from the European distributor G Heroes. Ben, would you like to talk about the element that this is actually going to be ready to ship this month?
Yes,
What?
it's actually already in production. I think almost completing soon. So this is one of the pieces that we want to try and do in such a way when you buy, we ship it.
I
So
love
it's an
that.
off-the-shelf product.
That's
Yes,
amazing.
that's off
Wow.
the shelf product. It's just like a Christmas gift for all big boys out there. It took us quite a lot of work and process to make this happen.
Wow.
And yeah, let's see how it goes.
Chris, is there anything you'd like to know from your side?
I don't have any more questions, but I do want to just kind of give props to Tiago Rios, who Martin mentioned sculpted the statue. I've chatted with him a few times about other stuff. He's a really cool guy, tremendous artist. He's done work with XM and some other companies, and his stuff just really kind of jives with my personal taste. So awesome artist. I was really happy to hear that he was working on this. And what you just said, Ben, the fact that you're going to have this as an off-the-shelf product, I mean, that's commitment from XM. I mean, you guys got to have some confidence in this product to be able to move it. I mean, that just shows a big commitment from XM. So bravo there.
Yeah,
All right.
it's tough nowadays. You know, I don't really know what does collectors want nowadays, right? Do they want beautiful statue, big statues. They want cheap statues. They want I think from XM here we'll just keep on pushing out quality products. That's what we have been doing since day one, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay, what we do then is I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you, Ben, Stanley, Martin. I'd like to also take some time just to go through the reviewers that we've got on board. So, Stephen, if you'd like to plug your channel there.
Yeah, Gem Mint Collectibles for statue unboxing and reviews. Also, I review weekly comic books and collected editions like you see behind me.
Awesome. And Chris, the other side.
Yeah, Bmutha reviews. You can see the spelling there on the screen there. And yeah, I review statues. Also have another channel called Shelf Space where we do interviews similar to like this with sculptors and other artists in the industry. If people want to check that out as well.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You have a great day. And thanks, everyone. And happy collecting. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you do have any questions, put it down below and we'll answer that. So take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. See you later.
Bye.